Round about October 2023, I had an idea for a platform. It was born out of an experience I had had with my own son. I had dropped him off, like many times before, and returned home. I soon got a call. "Mom, the school lunch today is gross, and I don't have enough money to buy lunch from the cafeteria." Well, I certainly wasn't going to drive all the way back to school to give him money. And yes, I could have told him buy what he could or suck it up and eat what there was. But hey, he hadn't had breakfast that morning, and his hatred of veggie pizza was well known from birth. So I was sympathetic. I wound up placing an order using Food Drop, and problem solved. Now, I don't pretend that this was by any means a major crisis, but it was the spark for an outrageous idea, one which kept going around and around in my head. Over the next few days, I couldn't help but think there had to have been a better solution to the problem. I thought about how I was able to solve it in the way that I did, and I could see that it came from the many privileges granted by my financially included status in life. First, I was simply aware of what solutions existed to potentially address the problem. Then I had access to a digital payment method, my credit card, that allowed me to use the food delivery service. I was digitally financially literate and comfortable navigating in that world. I knew how to use my email to validate that my transaction was processed properly by my financial institution, and I had interacted on numerous previous occasions with the app in question. But what about those who weren't so privileged or comfortable? What if there was a way to extend that same ability to all parents? Not only to be able to address a low-level emergency like not liking veggie pizza, but to be able to respond to all communication and transaction requirements within their child's school life in a more convenient and modern fashion. That then got me thinking about all the things that had to be physically managed by parents and guardians to support their children in their school life. Signing forms for field trips, sending in excuses for absences, signing up for extracurricular activities, purchasing stationery, uniforms, and workbooks. Even sometimes just the exchange of information between the school and the parent about upcoming events or changes to the school schedule. Sometimes it depended so heavily on the child delivering the message correctly or remembering to hand the parent the crumpled up piece of paper from the bottom of their bag. Do you feel me? The flashbacks on that are quite real. School administrators can tell you the nightmare of trying to reach parents whose phone numbers have changed or to communicate with those who don't check their emails. Sure, some schools on island had evolved beyond the paper-based approach of communicating with parents. Some use homework notebooks to send messages back and forth. Some utilize parent WhatsApp groups, the school website, emails, even Google Classroom to post messages to the attention of guardians. But even amongst these so-called evolved schools, what was clear was that the approaches were not consistent. They varied wildly, even from class to class, and I couldn't find one parent who thought that it couldn't be way more effective. That meant whatever I might come up with had to fit the needs of all and be able to be used by all and to be seen as a definite value add. I couldn't shake a sense of unease, though, about how to go about ensuring that whatever solution I might design could fit the widespread use of people who might be very different in their digital comfort level. To be able to solve these challenges and pain points that were common in the life of all parents and guardians with school-going children, I would have to be able to meet them wherever they were as individuals. That unease grew further when I thought about the national school ecosystem and viewed it through a socio-economic and geographic location lens. I could see that there would be a large difference in those who were comfortable with the use of technology and ready to use it as an enabler for convenience. On one side, there were schools that simply did not have the resources or the on-staff skills to effectively manage even the most basic methods mentioned earlier. For many, the administrative burden to communicate and monitor and reconcile exchanges with parents and guardians was already a heavy lift. On the other side, and even more frightening, was the fact that even if these had been available, these were the schools where the parents and children were inadequately exposed to the convenience through technology experience. But these were also the parents who could hardly afford to take time off from work to physically fulfill multiple administrative requirements for their children. Not due to any reduced interest or love on their part, but simply due to logistics and circumstances. If anyone needed the help, they did. And I was determined to try. What if all parents and guardians within Trinidad and Tobago were equally empowered to create more convenience in their lives when it came to managing the administration of their children's school life? What if I could ease the administrative burden on schools to make the jump? Could the gap I thought I was seeing be closed by a web app solution that could be adopted by any parent or guardian, student or school for free, thereby reducing the barrier to entry? What if the solution was created so that parents and guardians and schools could use it a little or a lot, depending on their comfort level? What if the solution met them where they were and helped them to get even more comfortable using technology through informative and educational posts? I genuinely thought it could be done, and I was determined to respond to the gap I was seeing that was common to most parents' lives and that in my mind stood unfulfilled. I started to look at all the things I needed to be able to do as a busy parent when it came to the managing of my son's school life, and I made a list. I then tried to think of all the varied family circumstances that might apply for others facing the same list. It had to work for parents and guardians with children in multiple schools, parents with children transitioning from one school level to another, parents in rural areas, digitally literate parents, and those less so. It had to be easy to understand, adopt, and to get on board, with value and great and easy customer service experience driving the desire to use it. I already knew I wanted to leverage the power of something web-based to bring convenience into the communication and transaction experience within the school environment. All the user should need to have was the ability to get online. The more I thought about how to make sure it could be valuable to anyone, I began to see that there could be an even deeper benefit. Looking at the challenge from my day-to-day work in driving financial inclusion, I understood how important it is as a nation to work towards the financial inclusion of all citizens. There is strong science to support the freedom that can be achieved on a personal level by improving one's financial resilience and overall financial health. The role of digital financial solutions in helping individuals to achieve financial freedom is without question. These solutions not only educate, but they also improve access and they reduce cost and bias. Becoming a confident digital consumer, or even just becoming better informed about digital financial solutions, has huge value. It goes without saying, therefore, that driving increased digital financial literacy is a gateway that can lead to better use of well-tailored digital financial solutions, which in turn can act as the bridge to greater financial independence. But for us to get there, Especially as a small island developing state, I see firsthand on a daily basis the challenges we collectively face in achieving these goals. Our financial exclusion levels are still too high, and basic digital literacy and competence is not the same across the board, leaving many of our citizens at a disadvantage. I have been very fortunate in life to have a very mixed circle of close friends from different levels of society and with varying degrees of competence in managing their financial and day to day lives digitally. Thinking about the ones who struggle made me realize a startling truth. The reason we have so many persons who are still digitally uncomfortable is because we're producing them. Even in 2025, there are still children leaving school and becoming adults who do not have the first clue how to fill out a form online, how to handle a digital payment transaction, how to safeguard themselves in terms of cyber threats and crimes, and access digital services that can enhance their financial strength and improve the quality of their lives. This is a fact that I feel we must face head on. Some people would prefer to meet a complete stranger by a bridge to exchange thousands of dollars because of their mistrust for and discomfort with technology. The fear is deep seated and they don't know where to find the help. Digitally and financially excluded children turn into digitally and financially excluded adults, and these adults simply cannot and sometimes won't help their children. And this ensures the continuity of the vicious cycle. Whilst we are getting better at addressing this competence gap on the adult end of the spectrum through adult focused educational programs, we haven't even begun to turn our attention to the scariest aspect of the problem. We need to go at it at the source. It is well beyond time to bell this particular cat. The downright poor exposure of many of our children to the basics of digital life. Parents, like one of my good friends who has only a very basic grasp of managing life digitally, admit that she and others like her are not in a position to capably explain basic digital concepts to their children and simply cannot help them. I'm talking about things so basic like being able to pay a cable bill or check online balances or send a bank transfer. This is not good and it must change. It does not help that our financial institutions are horrible at customer service. They don't return calls. They make even savvy users feel unwanted, and you feel you have to run down some of them to get answers about your own money. This, more than anything, is the reason why people prefer to deal in cash. Why should I pay to have someone treat me like a second class citizen? All these thoughts in my head, this was clearly going to go beyond just an idea for a solution and needed to be the start of a movement to drive the digital financial education and inclusion of our children, and to do that at scale. All parents, guardians, educators, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, indeed anyone who has the positive interest of a child at heart knows that we must prepare them for life in not only the world today, but the world of the future. They also know, regardless of what they may prefer or how they grew up, that life is rapidly changing right before our very eyes. And too many of our children are still being left behind. The fact is, to be able to do the most basic activities in today's world, being digitally competent is no longer a choice. It is a necessary reality. Gone are the days where one can stay wrapped in one's own little cocoon and hope to exist. Yet, despite this reality, many of our children, both here as well as in other countries in the region, and even within the global community, are still not adequately prepared. I want to change that. So, with these thoughts driving its creation, my cashless class was born. As it twisted through all the layers, it shifted from just a platform for everyday school communication and transactions and emerged as an e-learning resource, a force for good in support of the desire held by all stakeholders in the lives of children, held by anyone who wishes a child well, and that is to do right by them. If you are someone who has a stake in the positive outcome of a child's life, then gather here. We have a story to unfold together. We have a shared duty to send our children out into the world ready and able to navigate not just basically, but successfully. Let's do this together for our children's sake.